It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It is Thursday, March 18th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what's going to happen today on this lovely Thursday? We'll get some coronavirus updates, some question and answer, and victory rhymes by Youngse from South Africa. All right, guys. How are you guys doing today? It is 2 days after 3/16. I hope you guys are still have that buzz from that Tuesday amazing rapture time. I know a lot of us are a little bit tired the next day. It was just so intense and so satisfying. And I know that a lot of people in different countries were actually watching it live. Like even in America, I believe in America they were watching it from like 1 a.m. to something like 1 a.m. to like 3 a.m. So that must have been tough, but I know that it was worth it more than anything else. So super grateful and thankful to the Lord, the Holy Trinity, for an amazing 3/16. And of course, the message last night we'll go over tomorrow. So Thursday, almost ending of the week. I guess we can call it the first week after 3/16, right? And after new rapture has been made. And hope you guys really enjoyed the service last night and how just all of us coming together here on the Morning Star Drive and get this day started together. I want to remind everyone, just keep liking and commenting, and I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. All right. On Tuesday, too, we had a very funny episode of Lab 78. We had a really fun time. And during the week before, me and Elin went out to the shopping malls and stuff in Malaysia. We started interviewing people. So it's kind of fun. We get to see reactions of what Malaysians are thinking about gender equality and stuff like that too. So really, really interesting. So go ahead and check that out when you can. And of course, tomorrow night, we're going to have another episode, another Sky Talk. I'm not sure what it's going to be on yet. I recorded all these things in January. So, and I got to start recording more. I got to do another condition. Where I'm going to spend like 10 days just recording every single day. Either way, this Sunday too, we're going to be meeting another member from America, but on the other side of America. And those of you guys who don't know, America is huge. It is so huge. From one end of America to the other end of America is 6 time zones. Okay, that's how big it is. We're not even going 6 times. We're only going 3. We're going from New York, where we met Hannah last week. We're going to go all the way over to San Francisco, which is at the other end of the mainland. And that is a 6-hour plane ride to get across America with a 3-hour difference in time zone. We're going to be meeting someone who is in charge, a male member, and he is in charge of the SS National Department, and his name is Eddie Kwan. So going to have an awesome and fun interview, all right? So just thankful that he spent that time to do this interview and share his stories too. It's really, really good. So make sure to catch next week's Sunday edition, all right? So let's get into today's it's not a Friday, it's a Thursday. This Tubular Thursday, whatever, Thursday, right? I still don't have anything for Thursday. I'm not sure. You guys got to put something in there. What kind of Thursday it is, right? Featured artist of the day. First song is going to be from Man in Groom from Paper Music Associates in Korea, and this song is called How Can I Be a Good Man? Great song, guys, so go check that one out first. And then after that, we'll go to New Zealand, where we have Juice Star Aiden Verity, inspired by the roof of the 316 Memorial Building, and that one is called Holy House. And last but not least, we have the Somebody Boys from America with Nothing Could Go Wrong. All right, guys. So in this new time of greater rapture, and for some of you guys out there, you guys are rapturing for the first time, we're going to listen to some raptured music with the new mindset and mentality. And please make sure that if anything else, guys, make sure you pray for these member artists.
아침밥과 함께하는 뉴스는 이젠 일기예보 날 때문만은 아니지 고3 때 보지도 못했던 열공러들 나라면 하지도 못했을 그런 멋있는 놈들 그런 아저씨들 중 몇 명은 국회에 웃으면서 아침마다 TV에 나와 아빠 욕바지를 자쳐. 그런 아빠가 우스웠던 건 막연했던 이유. 막연했어 그냥 이상주의의 시선을 탓해야지. 재밌더라고 비록 내 통념은 부서졌지만 공부가 다긴 나잖아. 배움이 없으면 성공도 어렵지. Feel the great 양복 입고 머리 올린 정치인들 But peel the bubble 내 시선은 이미 골대로 꼬였지. 방금 오는 시리얼을 다시 내리나 be serious. 눈을 비벼 잠이 덜 깼나봐. 아니면 귀를 아파 나 자기 전 아니나 다를까 봐는 this rap. 우리 아빠는 소질이 있어 깨시민 덕분에 우리 아침 식탁은 힙해지네. Boy I feel stuffy. 사람들의 코가 너무 길지. 구분이 안 돼 캐피. Okay I'm baby be your shiny shiny boy. I feel stuffy. 사람들의 코가 너무 길지. 구분이 안 돼 캐피. Okay I'm baby be your shiny shiny. 할 말을 못할 만한 상황이 너무 많아. Yeah. 난 정말 될 거라고 나는 내가 yeah. 그게 내 발목을 잡아도 나는 yeah. 내 목에 줄이 채워지는 건 용납을 oh no. 삶은 더 올라가 내도 솔직해질 내 친구라도 잘못된 건 잘못된 거야. 공부만 하는 새끼들 필요해 보이네 묵상이. 의미 없는 종교는 병들게 하지. 잘 들어 건데 아무 말도 안 하는 게 예란 난 벨레 양아치. 물론 첫째로 자신에게 떳떳하게 나그래 내 발목이 잡혀도 더 세게 차버릴래. 이게 내게 개라도 난 내 목에 줄 안 걸래. Yeah. Boy I feel stuffy. 사람들의 코가 너무 길지. 구분이 안 돼 캐피. Okay I'm baby be your shiny shiny boy. I feel stuffy. 사람들의 코가 너무 길지. 구분이 안 돼 캐피. Okay I'm baby be your shiny shiny boy. I feel stuffy. 사람들의 코가 너무 길지. 구분이 안 돼 캐피. Okay I'm baby be your shiny shiny boy. I feel stuffy. 사람들의 코가 너무 길지. 구분이 안 돼
Looking out on the window, making eyes at the clouds, wondering where did the time go, hanging tight to you now. Stop the sun and stop the moon, make it last forever, me and you. Stop the stars and stop the dawn, let the night go on and on. This is our holy house, decked out in sapphire blue. Midnight struck, God fell in love. Now I'm in a holy house with you. Looking up under stage lights, making eyes at the crowd. Got your head on my shoulder, I hear your breath getting loud, loud. Stop the sun and stop the moon, make it last forever, me and you. Stop the stars and stop the door, let the night go on and on. This is our holy house, decked out in sapphire blue. Midnight struck, God fell in love. Now I'm
Is life a short life, depending how you living? Nothing could go wrong if I'm with you, it's so fulfilling. If you keep the time, really God walks with you. Not even just walks with you, He will even talk with you. That is right. Been feeling life is different, everything depends on me. And having my own thoughts, that's really a test to me. The more I make myself, the more valuable I become. I have to take action, that's the final outcome. How could I ever forget the moments that we spent together? It's those past memories that will put you together. It's what you do after the mess up that counts. I give glory and thanks even in times of doubt. Don't just say you have the heart but don't do it. You say you want, you gotta show Him and prove it. You have to be a life the Lord really remembers. Don't just walk around for no reason, do better. Foot on the gas, pushing the pace as I start this race. I have to get my mind straight so I can become great. The time I have now, I really must cherish. It could be gone at any moment, it really just vanish. I know it's been a while since I sat and even wrote a song. I wonder if my words sound good or even flow at all, and how I wanna share your words to the entire world. Alright, I'm sorry, let me fix myself. If I think of you, I know I will do well. It's times like these, I know I will prevail. Don't just say you have the heart, but don't do it. You say you want, you gotta show Him and prove it. You have to be a life the Lord really remembers. Nothing could go wrong if we do it together.
And that was the Sumdy Boys from America with Nothing Could Go Wrong. Before that, from New Zealand, Justar Eden Verity with Holy House. And of course, the feature artist of the day is Man and Groom from the Paper Music Associates in Korea. And that song is How Can I Be a Good Man? All right, guys, so what does that mean? It means that we're getting into some news that's going all around the world. Yes, some updates. We're going to start out with the coronavirus updates for today. In the world, 121.2 million cases, 2.6 million deaths at 2.21% mortality rate. Top 6 countries, we're going to base it on the daily infection rate. So we'll start with the U.S., 30.1 million cases, 549,000 deaths at 1.82%. Brazil, only country to have a rising mortality rate today, 11.6 million cases, 282,000 deaths at 2.43%. India, 11.4 million cases, 159,000 deaths at 1.39%. Italy, 3.2 million cases, 103,000 deaths with 3.16%. Yes, 316. That's not necessarily a good thing for this song. Turkey's new in the top 6 with 2.9 million cases, 29,000 deaths at 1.02%. And Poland rounds up the top 6 with 1.9 million cases, 47,000 deaths at 2.46%. Now, Sweden, only country not to go into lockdown, full lockdown, 1.82% remaining steady, and Belgium at 2.78%. Now let's look at the daily infection rates. We have, back on top is the US, but not by much. It's 46,000 cases in a day. And then Brazil with 42,000. And then after that, we have a severe drop with India with 24,000 cases, and then Turkey and Italy with 15,000, and then Poland with 10,000 cases. Over here in Indonesia, we have, well, not Indonesia, in Southeast Asia, Indonesia's back on top with 5,500 cases, and the Philippines with 5,300. So the Philippines, the cases are going up a little bit more. And Malaysia over here dropping a lot more to 1,200 cases in a single day. All right, so that means we're going to take a look at the top three news items for today. And the first one, we kind of talked about this the other day, that the EU has suspended use of the Oxford AstraZeneca the vaccination. And news just came out is the Oxford AstraZeneca, a vaccine is now deemed safe by the UK. So this vaccine is now safe, and the Health Secretary has said of the UK, after some European nations paused its use amid concern over blood clots. Of course, it could be a little concerning because it is from the UK. Like, this vaccine is from there, so they might be just saying so that they can sell more of it. I'm not sure, but this is what the UK is saying. So the person who is the Health Secretary of the UK, his name is Matt Hancock. He urged people to listen to the regulators and get the jab as soon as they got the opportunity. About 13 countries have suspended use of the AstraZeneca vaccine while they seek further clarification on its safety. But the UK's medicines watchdog, the MHRA, has said evidence does not suggest the jab causes blood clots. So about 17 million people across the EU and the UK have received a dose of the vaccine, with fewer than 40 cases of blood clots reported as of last week. And it was said the number of cases of blood clots reported was lower than the hundreds of cases that would be expected among the general population. So in a bid to reassure the British public, Mr. Hancock stressed that the MHRA, the WHO, and the European Medicines Agency all believed the vaccine was safe. They were also asked if there had been evidence of people declining the jab after the European suspensions. The health secretary said there were still huge numbers of people vaccinated every day, and that enthusiasm for getting the vaccine is incredibly strong, right? So, that's good news. Is it's not causing these blood clots, which is great news. And like they said, for the amount of people that actually had blood clots after receiving the vaccine, it is far below the number, like the regular number of people who have this type of problem, or these types of things that are going on in their bodies, right? So the latest government figure shows that about 25 million first doses of the vaccine have now been given in the UK, with about 1.7 million people receiving a second dose already. So countries across Europe are seeking further clarity on the jab safety amid criticism of their decision to suspend its use. And Denmark was the first to pause its use of the vaccine, followed by Norway and Iceland, and then Germany, France, Italy, Cyprus, Spain, Latvia, Sweden are the latest to follow suit. Germany, France, and Italy have said they are awaiting the outcome of an investigation by the EU's regulator, and they said that they had opted to pause their use of the drug as a precautionary measure more than anything else. And other countries, including Austria, have halted the use of certain batches of the jab, while Belgium, Poland, the Czech Republic, and Ukraine said they would continue to administer it, right? So the EMA, or the European Medicines Agency, is expected to release the findings of its investigation on Thursday, but it said earlier that it was still firmly convinced of the benefits of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Right, so that is good news that it's deemed to be safe more than anything else, right? Second thing in the news is we're going to go back to Japan, right? The Japan courts find that same-sex marriage ban is unconstitutional. So a district court in Japan has, in a landmark decision, ruled that the country's failure to recognize same-sex marriage is unconstitutional. So Japan's constitution defines marriage as one between both sexes. But a Sapporo court ruled that this denied the couple's constitutionally guaranteed equality in what is seen as a symbolic victory for LGBTQ activists. So Japan is the only country in the G7 group of developed nations that does not allow same-sex marriage. And the case was one of several brought to district courts in various parts of Japan by a group of same-sex couples who are seeking damages for mental suffering. So the Sapporo court rejected the compensation claim of 1 million yen per person for being denied the same rights as heterosexual couples, but it found that not allowing them to marry was unconstitutional. So Japan's constitution, put in place after the end of World War II, defining the marriage as of one of mutual consent between both sexes, and the government has said this means same-sex marriage was not foreseen at the time. But lawyers for the plaintiffs said the phrasing was actually meant to prevent forced marriages, and that there's nothing in the Constitution that explicitly prohibits gay marriage. So the court in Sapporo, the capital city of the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido, is the first to give its verdict, and its ruling is seen as having significant impact on the other courts, but there is still some way to go. So even if all district courts declare same-sex unions constitutional, the legislation of same-sex marriages is not guaranteed. So activists say conservative attitudes towards homosexuality remain, and many LGBTQ Japanese still do not dare to come out to their friends and family. So since 2015, some cities have issued certificates for same-sex couples, but they are not legally binding and merely call on businesses to accord equal treatment. But recent polls have indicated that the majority of younger Japanese favor same-sex marriage, and the latest ruling is considered by many as a win for marriage equality. So that is what just happened in Japan. And last but not least, very interesting study. We talked about this several weeks ago about the effect of the coronavirus, lockdowns and everything else on children. So the coronavirus disruptions have killed 228,000 children in South Asia, says a UN report. So the disruption in healthcare services caused by the coronavirus may have led to an estimated 239,000 maternal and child deaths in South Asia, according to a new UN report. It's focused on Afghanistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, home to some 1.8 billion people combined. And the report found that women, children, and adolescents were the worst hit. So South Asia has reported nearly 13 million coronavirus cases and more than 186,000 deaths so far. Many countries, including those in South Asia, responded to the pandemic with stringent lockdowns, while hospitals, pharmacies, and grocers remained open. Almost everything else shut down. And the report from direct and indirect effects of coronavirus pandemic and response in South Asia examines the effects of the government strategies on healthcare, social services, including schools and the economy. And it estimates that there have been 228,000 additional deaths of children under 5 in just these 6 countries alone due to crucial services ranging from nutrition benefits to immunization being halted. It says the number of children being treated for severe malnutrition fell by more than 80% in Bangladesh and Nepal, and immunization among children dropped by 35 and 65% in India and Pakistan, respectively. So the report also says that child mortality rose the highest in India in 2020, up by 15.4%, followed by Bangladesh at 13%. Sri Lanka saw the sharpest increase in maternal deaths at 21.5%, followed by Pakistan's 21.3%. It also estimates that there have been some 3.5 million additional unwanted pregnancies, including 400,000 among teenagers due to poor or no access to contraception. And the full effect of the pandemic and ensuing lockdowns is just starting to become clear as countries take stock of their public health and education programs. So experts in India already fear that malnutrition rates will be significantly worse across the country when the data pours in over the next few months. And some countries in South Asia, like India, are still battling a surge in infections. While the nationwide lockdown ended in June last year, several states and districts have resorted to intermittent lockdowns to arrest the spread of the virus. So the interruption to health services also affected those suffering from other diseases, and the report predicts an additional 5,943 deaths among the region for adolescents who couldn't get treatment for TB, tuberculosis, malaria, typhoid, and HIV/AIDS. Right, so this was the big argument, right? If you guys think about this was the argument: is the cure worse? Is the cure worse than the actual problem, right? Than the disease? And we're seeing slowly, like even in Southeast Asia, just children was an additional 228,000 deaths, right? Which is more than all these countries combined, because just India alone is only like 180,000. If you combine those other countries, it doesn't come close to 228,000, which means that what has been caused has, caused significantly more amount of deaths just in children, right? And this is why, it's kind of what people were saying when originally these lockdowns and things were happening is the cure worse than the actual disease? Is it worse? Right? And it's something that we have to think about. And then this is just the health. What about people losing their jobs and their businesses, going depressed, substance abuse, people dying from alcoholism, people dying from substance abuse, people dying from committing suicide because they're depressed from losing their jobs and all the other different things, right? And then you have like these mental health support groups that can't meet anymore. There's just so many things that were affected by the way that they did it that if it was like, if there was just doing all the research even before they started this is why so many people were up in arms, because it just never happened like this before. It was just so draconian, and it was done in such a way you're like, what? Why would they do that? Like, it's never been done like that before. Even vaccinations, you don't need the whole world to be vaccinated. It's kind of a really strange way things are being done, because even during the Spanish influenza, you didn't vaccinate the whole world, and that Spanish influenza was worse. There's way more deaths from that than this coronavirus. So it's quite interesting how extreme and how far they went for these types of things. And as the studies are coming out, we're gonna see that it's true what these doctors were saying in the past. Like, what we're doing now is going to have a much, much bigger effect than we think. And we're going to only be looking at the number of deaths that the coronavirus did, which is 2.6 million in the world, which is nothing. Just wait till we see the other numbers that come out, the excess deaths that come from the result of lockdowns and, just stopping society and the economy. And that is going to be a scary figure more than anything else. So, as it comes out, people are going to see that in the end, in the end, all the truth comes out. So let's see what happens at the end of this. All right. So, that means that's the end of today's news, which means we're going to get into a time of praise and worship. And we're going to praise and worship a couple of songs here today. We're going to start off with Flying on the Wings of the Holy Spirit, and then Set Up the New Sail, and then we'll end off with that deep Shimjonic song, one of the great songs of the Lord. It is Please Call Me. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let us make sure that we do what? That we praise together as one body, giving glory to the Holy Trinity.
God's purpose, that is why I run. That is why I run. Life is great, awesome and fun, running with her, following where the Spirit leads, chasing her. I am here, the Holy Spirit reminds me I will always be right here next to you. I will never leave your side. Therefore, do not forget, think of me. That's what she always says. People though they live their lives, changing all the time, they don't really keep their promises. Though they may say that they'll think of her first in their life day to day, forgetting all that they live their own way. You and I both, even today, let's take action with the thoughts of the Lord. That's the joy we gain as we act with the Holy Spirit. confess to you. If I row, I won't reach the end, so I will set up your sail. On my own, I can't overcome all of the waves of the world. I need you, Savior. So I'll quickly raise your sail in my heart. These waves won't stop me. I will overcome the seas of this world with your strength. I'll raise up a new sail, my Lord. I'll plant it in my center. I will act on your will with the mast and the sail of the Trinity's thoughts. I will keep them in my heart, and I will go until the very end. I've received such a blessed time. Even the rapture is mine. Now I'll surely set up the sail of the new what you gave. I'll rapture higher while fulfilling the purpose of God. I'll travel onward till I reach the goal. I'll always go on till the end. I'll raise up a new sail, my Lord. I'll plant it in my center. I will act on your will with
when it's in Wangyeongdong, please won't you call me when the Lord comes and appears in Providence. Please come and tell me I've waited so long for my Lord to come. Finally has come. Now he is calling me. Now he has come, bringing God's word. God was waiting for him, I waited too. Until the moon rises till the stars shine. Share with me all the stories of times when we could not meet. All that you went through, won't you tell me, please? Though you haven't said much, all of your stories carry stories deeper still. Every pain and struggle, all that you've done. And for us too, we have deep stories. In those days, tribulation struck like a storm, harsh winds of endless persecution. We were left questioning, can we meet with the Lord again? The ideal world, can it be fulfilled? Deep in thought, we worried and wondered. I cannot forget all those times come to mind. Truly we didn't know that in the future history would change like this, rising brightly. Truly God, you're great, you're almighty, you're omniscient. Truly my Lord, you're tenacious, powerful, you endure, you do it to completion. We cannot help but cry out, truly great, the Lord is truly great. We did well to believe and follow, truly we did. This is what I have realized here today.
And there you go. That is Please Call Me, a very deep Shimjonic song. Before that was Set Up the New Sail, and of course, Flying on the Wings of the Holy Spirit. All right, guys, so that brings us into a time of word study for today. And in today's word study, we're going to go over a question of the day. And it's something that, really, really good question. I'm doing lecture training lately. And I was teaching about resurrection. And of course, one of the most controversial controversial parts of when we lecture. Like, there's like a couple things that people will freak out. Well, not people, mainly Christians will freak out about, right? And the three things from what we teach that freak people out. Number one is the predestination of the cross. When we teach predestination, we do say that the cross was not predestined, and that, Christians will be very, very strong against this. Second thing is the resurrection of Jesus, that we say it's spiritual, not physical. And the third one is obviously going to be the Holy Son, that Jesus is not literally God, right? But more of he's united with God and he becomes divine, but is not literally God. And those are the three things that a lot of people who have faith already will question, and it could be what you call the quote unquote deal breaker for them to stop studying, right? And this is why we have to kind of tread with caution when it comes to us teaching these three things. And depending on the situation, if we understand the context of what is happening, we know that Christians are a little bit different because of what they've learned all their life, and like the history of the last 2,000 years of what they're learning. And this is why it becomes a very difficult thing, because you're not just breaking one person's thought, you're breaking 2,000 years of perception, right? And the easiest way you can see that there is something very strong about their perception on these three things is you just look at the difference between someone who has no preconceived notions, who are not Christian, who listen to the word and they say, oh, spiritual resurrection, oh, that makes sense, oh, totally makes sense. They have no qualms with it, and they'll just listen to it and like, oh, okay, it makes sense. This sounds better, right? And you'll only for those that are that are strong in faith are going to be the ones that listen to it and say, oh my gosh, oh, this can't be it. How dare you say that? And they think that we're like attacking Christianity more than anything else. Okay, so learning about resurrection and the resurrection of Jesus, even I'll tell you now, even people in the former faith, they have no problems with understanding spiritual resurrection and what we teach before it gets into Jesus' resurrection. Okay, and of course you're going to have tons of when we start teaching Jesus' resurrection, which I don't recommend you teach every single person because it could become something that turns into an argument or a war, right? Like people are going to ask, where's the body? Or what about people who touched him? And what about what about him eating? And like there's a bunch of different things that people will say, oh, look, totally looks like a physical body, right? So the first recommendation I want to give to you guys for this one is we have to remember that they're coming into the situation believing a certain way. And because they believe that way, they're looking for the proofs that prove their theory or what they think is right. So, basically, if they think it's a physical resurrection, they'll find all the proofs to show that it's physical resurrection. When it comes to predestination, predestination becomes, because they believed it was predestined to die on the cross, they'll take things like Isaiah chapter 53 and say, look, it's predestined. Right? So they'll look for all the things that prove their side. But the very first thing we want to do is to take the resurrection and show them full context. Okay? That's the first thing I would do, is show them full context, just so they know that even though, yes, these verses do show up that kind of show that it's a physical resurrection, but that's not the whole picture. So you can't base your answer on a half picture. We have to always see the full picture. What's the context of what we're looking at? So there are verses in the Bible that, like Luke chapter 24, verse 39, that says, look, I have flesh and bone. Not like a spirit, not like a ghost. I have flesh and bone. Another one, he eats with people. And there's all these other different things, right? And yes, that does pretty much look like spiritual. That does look like a physical resurrection. It does. When you just look at those verses. But what we want to do is to open their eyes to the other side of why there is a second look that we have to take a second look at it. Right? So the second look would be, it's like, okay, well, let me show you the verses that show you the other side of it that we never think about, right? So we show them verses like, John chapter 20, verses 14 through 16, that talks about Mary, who thinks Jesus is a gardener after, he rose again after 3 days, which is kind of weird because how can you not recognize someone after 3 days? I know people that I haven't literally physically seen in like months, but when we get on Zoom, we know who each other are. Also, there's other verses. If you go into Luke chapter 24, I believe it's like from verses like 15 to 31, somewhere around there, but it's the road to Emmaus, and then Jesus appears to two of his disciples that are walking to Emmaus, which is like a 7-kilometer walk, and then, and he talks to them, and they don't recognize him until they eat together with him, and then, poof, he's gone, right? So we're showing them more and more things as like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Or what about in Luke, like in like John chapter 20, verse 19, when the doors are locked and then all of a sudden he just appears and disappears. Or, there's a lot of things that do show up that we got to show them the other side. So when we show them the other side, we say, it's not as concrete as we think. Of course, if you look at only the things that you showed me, then it sounds pretty clear that it is a physical resurrection. But I'm showing you another side that we have to see the full spectrum of what is going on, right? So there's one thing is I want to show them the full context of the situation, that is not all stuff that is so easily like, oh, so obviously physical resurrection, right? Second thing we have to do, or what I would do, is I would go into scriptures. Like, what do scriptures tell us, right, about the body and the spirit? And there's multiple verses that talk about, like John 6:63 talks about the flesh counts for nothing, but the spirit gives life. So it talks about how useless the body is. Ecclesiastes 12:7 says your body eventually, decomposes back into dust, and then your spirit goes back up to God. And 1 Corinthians 15:50 says that, it says that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. Like, your body doesn't go to heaven. It obviously doesn't, right? So the next thing we want to do is to show that how does it fit in with what the scriptures are saying. But when you hear Jesus and all the New Testament, it's basically saying that the spirit is the most important part that lives forever. And that's a thing that we have to really see, right? And then if we want to get into like that verse I read in Luke 24, verse 39, he says, I have flesh and bones, as you see I have. Yes, it's pretty crazy because it says, I have flesh and bones, not like a spirit, or like in some versions it's spirit, some versions it says ghost, right? But when Sunseem uses this verse for resurrection, he uses it when he's explaining the 3 stages of a spirit, right? So the 3 stages of a spirit is formed, living, then divine, which coincide with the Old Testament, New Testament, complete Testament. The Old Testament spirit is a formed spirit, which doesn't have a full shape or form, and you can walk through it like a mist, right? So it's like kind of a ghost that you see on TV, or in movies and stuff like that. And it's a formed spirit, it's Old Testament style spirit because they have not received salvation yet, right? So every single person before Jesus came, they were all formed spirits, like a mist, right? And you can still see that it's that person, but they're not fully formed. And of course, not until salvation is achieved when Jesus comes, this is when the spirit becomes living, right? Much more detailed, much brighter, and touchable. Like, you can actually touch it, right? Well, touch it doesn't mean like, like all of a sudden if I went up to heaven in my body, I would bump into people. But obviously it says your spiritual eyes need to be open. So you need to see through your spirit. And when you see through your spirit, you're able to, a spirit can touch other spirits, right? So the question might be is, well, in Luke 24:39, was Jesus, if Jesus was physical, right? If he was physical, then everyone should be able to touch him. But the problem was, why Sunseem uses this verse is because in John chapter 20, verse 14 through 16, he tells Mary not to touch him. And that's because what Sunseem teaches is after you die, your spirit goes through those 3 stages to fully form, right? So you go from formed, living to divine, right? And it takes time. And that's why in the beginning, when he saw Mary, he said, don't touch me. He needed time. And then later when he met Thomas, his body went through the transformation, his spirit went through the transformation, and he was able to be touched, right? So another thing is we need to understand the context of the situation of that time period of 2,000 years ago. These people are learning about the spirit right then and there. They're, in the Old Testament, it was a very, very physical time period, and everything is about the physical body, right? The judgment was on the physical body. So Jesus has to speak in a way that fits those people back then. And the example I gave to some people during the lecture training is at the time of Jesus, when we look at the way how God speaks to people according to their level. And the example is when the question is, what does the Holy Son look like? And the answer to most Christians is, looks like Jesus. And then the next question would be, well, what does Jesus look like? And they're going to say, whatever we saw on the paintings on my wall or on my Bible or when I go to the churches, which is kind of like a Jesus that is familiar to those people, right? That's why you'll have a white Jesus, you have a black Jesus, you have a Chinese Jesus, whatever types of Jesus. There's something that's comfortable for those people. But ultimately, we know that Jesus was a Jew. Right, which means that he looked Jewish more than anything else. It's probably a little bit darker, nose, everything else is probably more Jewish than anything else, right? And that's what Jesus literally looks like, is a Jewish person, right? What we see is kind of what people's interpretations are to help people to be comfortable with them, at that time. So even when Sunsi met the Holy Son for the first time, he showed up as his elementary school teacher because the elementary school teacher for him was a person of authority and someone he'd listened to. But he had no idea till later that it was actually the Holy Son and not his literal elementary school teacher, right? So if God is speaking to you at your level, right? If he speaks to you at your level, then the interesting thing is then he has to speak to you from what you understand and what you know. So even when Jesus is talking to Thomas, he has to talk in the level of what Thomas understands about, hey, you can touch me right here. Like, I'm not something that's like a spirit already dead. I've come back. I have resurrected, right? And to show it to Thomas, he said, here, come touch me, right? Come touch me. You see, I'm actually fully formed here. And then Thomas touches him and says, oh my gosh, okay, this makes sense, right? So I do believe Sunsim also talked about the holes in his hands and his side. And obviously the body is not fully formed yet. The spirit is not fully formed because when he actually turns into his like divine level of spirit, when Jesus turns to a divine level of spirit, there's not going to be any holes, right? Because that would be terrible if you think about that, because think about it. Imagine you get to a car accident and you come back as someone who just got into a car accident, which means like half your head is caved in, all your bones are broken. Like that doesn't make sense either, that his spirit looks like that, right? But it was to show himself in a way that the people would believe at that time. That, yeah, it's me. Look, feel this. Yeah, this is the holes. Like, come on, you got to know it's me. And the ultimate example is to show that it was Jesus that came back more than anything else. But this is a very, very controversial topic, not for us, but to teach. And that's why I do suggest take it step by step and, see the situation. And some people are not willing to believe this, but they will believe spiritual resurrection, but they won't believe in the Jesus resurrection. And this is something that we have to look at and say, is it worth teaching? Or should I hold on to it a bit, and then after he realizes, obviously he'll accept it 100%, right? So it is something you take in stride and just check to see if they're ready for it or not, okay? Great question, by the way. We could probably even go even deeper into that too, okay? So that is the question for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed that, which means we're getting into a time of the last song for today. And I introduced this YouTube channel to you guys before. It's called Scary Pockets, and they basically do funk versions of every song. And we did I Want It That Way last week. It was so good. I was telling some musicians, like, man, we've got to like totally funkify like Providence songs too. That would be crazy. Can you imagine how many people would be dancing and stuff at church if we like totally funkified, like, can you imagine that, like putting funk to like the song we heard today, like Please Call Me? That would be crazy, right? But I would love to hear those funk versions of like even Providence songs. So we're gonna go back to Scary Pockets, and great version of this song. It's called If I Ain't Got You by Alicia Keys. Everyone knows that song, right? If I Ain't Got You. And I believe this is in the Scary Pockets, whatchamacallit. The Scary Pockets is like two people. I believe the pianist and someone else who are the ones that basically do the show. And they invite different, they invite different singers and other musicians to do the singing and everything else to it. And this one is from someone named Kenton Chen. Yes, this dude is Chinese, and this guy's got a great voice. His name is Kenton Chen, and he's the singer that came in to sing for this. But this is If I Ain't Got You from Alicia Keys, but it's done by Scary Pockets, totally funkified. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Some people live for the fortune. Some people live just for the fame. Some people live for the power, yeah, yeah. Some people live just to play the game. Some people think that the physical things define what's within. I've been there before, and that life's a bore so full of the superficial. Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, if I got you, baby. Some people want diamond rings, but I don't want everything. But everything means nothing if I ain't got you, yeah. Some people search for a fountain, promises forever young. Oh, some people need 3 dozen roses. That's the only way to prove you love them. Hand me the world on a silver platter. What good would it be with no one to share and no one who truly cares for me? Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, if I got you, baby. Some people want diamond rings, but I don't want everything. But everything means nothing if I ain't got you. Some people want it all, and I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, if I got you, baby. Some people want diamond rings, but I don't want anything if I ain't got you, baby. If I ain't got you.
And that was Scary Pockets with If I Ain't Got You cover. Originally by Alicia Keys, but done by Scary Pockets, and the singer is Kenton Chu. Amazing version of it. I hope you guys really enjoy that. Go ahead and check them out. Scary Pockets. They're so good. All right, so today is Thursday, guys, which means what? We have another special segment coming all the way from South Africa. This is Youngse, and this is Victory Rhymes.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Victory Rhymes here on the Morning Star Drive. This is the place where you're gonna hear a lot of poetry, a lot of poems written by the brides of this history. And in these poems, we connect and we get to know each other. People who live so far away from you, you'll probably never see them, especially in this COVID time, right? But or people you might not have met or ever heard of. But through their poetry, you can get to know them and you can connect and also hear their stories and realizations as we all live our daily life of faith. It's really cool to hear what other people experience, other people who are in different situations than we are. It's always very interesting. Yeah, and so on this episode, you're gonna hear all these cool poems. And you can also submit your own poems if there's something that you would like to share. Please, I would love to hear. You can find the email in the description box. You can also share any poem, like just anything. Go wild. I don't care. There's no limit. Share the poem that inspires you. Share Sangsim's poem. Share your friend's poem. Anything. I would love to hear why you like that poem, and I would love to feature the poem that you like. Great, everyone. So I hope you've been having a really amazing Thursday until now. And now we're gonna get deep into some poetry. We're gonna go deep, y'all. And the poem that I'm gonna share today, in fact, 2 poems, are 2 poems that I wrote. Cannot even remember exactly when, but I kind of think it must have been 2018. And I kind of remember that these poems were inspired by a sermon where Sangsim said, we should write poetry. And hey, it's easy, you can do it. And then Sangsim just writes a poem on the spot. And you're like, what? How can he write something that good just at the spot? And I felt inspired at that time, and I wrote poems, all kinds of poems. I wrote even like poems about the tea. But it was cool because, yeah, I realized if you just challenge yourself, you can do it. But yeah, to be honest, I remember that sermon, and I remember that it was a great inspiration for me to just not be so like, oh, the moment has to come, for me to write the poem. But actually, if I just want to write something, if I focus my mind and want to do it, then I can do it. And there's something that wasn't there before. Some piece of giving glory, confession to God, or something that we are thankful for that did not exist before. So, yeah, don't remember exactly when this poem was written, but I do remember that sermon had a great influence on me. To just get into it and write, even though you think, oh, but what is it gonna mean to anyone if I realize something from the tea bag and write it? But like, that's something you can read, and it's something that God will enjoy. So if you write something, there is something, so something you can offer to the Trinity as your thanksgiving and confession of love. So it would be awesome to challenge yourself, especially this week. Go for it, challenge yourself, and give glory in a new way. And these poems that I'm reading today, was inspired by the earth and the sun, the relationship we have with the sun. We cannot exist without the sun. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but inspired by this relationship, this beautiful relationship we have with the sun as the earth, I felt inspired. The sun can be a metaphor for God, the source of light and strength, so powerful and big, and the earth can be the metaphor for us. And with these two metaphors in mind, I wrote these two poems, and I'm not going to say anything more because you're going to hear it and you're going to know exactly that shimjang, that deep love we have with God. And we cannot, this is the time that we really should confess again. I cannot live without you, God. Just like the earth cannot survive without the sun, I cannot survive without you. So I hope as you listen to these poems, you will feel that shimjang and feel like, wow, without the sun, I cannot live. Like without God, without my sun, my light, my everything. Okay, but I'm not going to spoil it. I said so I'm not going to go into that. So here we go. These are poems about the sun and the earth. Should the sun suddenly disappear, the night stretch into tomorrow, and the day thereafter, and forevermore, the earth would have lost its core. The earth has been spiraling around the sun for millions of years, but without the sun, we'd slip into nothingness, with a nothing that could bring us light, that could bring us life. The earth without the sun is a bowl of ice, a bowl of death. No spring blossoms, no autumn picnics, no summer laughter. Just long, dark winters without campfire stories. A long silence. A tragic emptiness. Without the sun, the earth would be lost. For millions of years, it has found comfort, direction, warmth, safety, and guidance from the sun. How would the earth know how to navigate the universe on its own? The earth without the sun is a lonely planet drifting around. No other star could pull the earth close. No other star knows the earth's stories. The earth and the sun together is a perfect match. Perfectly positioned, perfectly on track. Together there is life. Apart, nothing makes sense. My God, my Son, Like the earth without the sun, am I without you. And the next poem is The Sun Without the Earth. The sun, a burning ball of gas, the center of our solar system, our source of light, our source of life. Looked at closely, you can see fire dances performed on its surface. Unimaginably hot, it keeps the earth alive. Without the sun, the earth could never survive. But what if the sun had no earth? The sun, overflowing with warmth, temperatures no human can truly comprehend, but nothing to heat up. So much power, but nothing to pull closer. Even the powerful sun wants to give, wants to light up, wants to give strength, wants to pour out all its heat. The sun, completely independent, would be rather lonely by itself. And those were the poems that I wrote about the sun and the earth. And it really reminds me of the relationship that we have with God. We really cannot live without God, but God also really wants to live with us. And it's this beautiful relationship of counterparts who really love each other, need each other, and want to be together. And without each other, there's no sense. It's the earth drifting into nothingness. Us without God is completely lost. We don't know our purpose, we don't know our meaning, and we're like the earth just floating, slipping into nothing. But when we are connected to the sun, when we are centered on the sun, we make sense. There's life. So in our lives too, when we focus on God, we center on God, we fulfill the purpose of creation together with God, everything makes sense. So I hope this inspires you to this week again make that confession and really think about it. Wow, truly, I really cannot live without God. If there's no God's word, God's love, God's purpose, I wouldn't know what to make out of life. I would be completely lost. That is definitely how I feel. If there's no God's purpose, if I didn't know this word, I don't know where I would be at this time. Completely lost, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm so incredibly thankful and truly thankful that we have this great history, this great word, and we have the Lord, and we can live this life of the best love. So I hope that all of you can have a beautiful day together with God and the Lord, and I'll be back again next week with another episode of Victory Rhymes. This is Youngse. Goodbye.
And thank you, Youngse, for another awesome segment of Victory Rhymes today about the sun and the earth. Thank you so much for all your hard work and efforts putting into this segment, and we look forward to a bunch more. And once again, guys, if you've got any poems you want to recommend, or you want to even put someone else up, even if it's anonymous, go ahead and send it to her email that is in the description below. All right, guys? Everyone, that is the last segment for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed today's podcast on this amazing Thursday, only 2 days after 3/16. Or is it 3 days? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, about 2 days after 3/16. Everyone, have an awesome Thursday. And of course, we always look forward to the Friday podcast because that means it's the last day of the work week. All right, guys, have an awesome, awesome Thursday. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. Drive, you know